Grace and peace. I'm Brian Musser, the Baptist Campus Minister at Drexel University, and this is Peace and Power Christian Fellowship. The peace of Jesus Christ to change your life, the power of the Holy Spirit to change the world. And we are continuing our series on prayer, conversation with God about things of mutual concern. This is lesson 4 on prayer, and we are looking at how should I pray for others. If you want to see some of the other lessons, we're doing a question each week. The first lesson was about what is prayer. Second lesson was, does prayer matter to God? Last lesson, we looked at, should I pray for myself? And then this time we are looking at, how should I pray for others? We're going to start in an interesting place here. We're going to start with the ending of the book of Job. After the Lord had said these things to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, I am angry with you and your two friends, because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. So now take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and sacrifice a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly. You have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamathite did what the Lord told them, and the Lord accepted Job's prayer. So looking at this, I just wanted to point out some specific things about what's going on here. In the midst of his own personal struggles, we see that Job had a bodily disease. We see him lose all of his possessions. We see him lose his family. He complains about this loss of intimacy with God. He talks about how he kind of believed what his friends believed, but now because of what has happened to him, he's not even sure what he believes. He lost his religion. He would do these sacrifices to protect his family, and his family wasn't protected. Even in the midst of all this, God establishes Job as a priest to pray for his friends' forgiveness. So Job, a guy who is destitute, a guy who has tons of physical problems, a guy who is grieving the loss of his family, is still seen as possibly being in the position, a God-ordained position of being the priest for his family. That is a very interesting place to look at in this book of Job. Later on in this chapter, Job gets a lot of the blessings of God returned to him. But still, in the midst of all his suffering, he's still asked by God to pray for those around him. So just wanted to see this idea, and this Richard Foster puts it this way: intercessory prayer is priestly ministry. And one of the most challenging teachings of the New Testament is the universal priesthood of all Christians. As priests appointed and anointed by God, we have the honor of going before the Most High on behalf of others. This is not optional. It is a sacred obligation and the precious privilege of all who take up the yoke of Christ. So even if Job, in the midst of everything going on with his theological questions, with his religious issues, with his personal suffering, with how he's been complaining to God this entire 40 chapters, basically, even in the midst of that, if he's established as a priest for his friends to pray for his friends so that they can be forgiven, we too, with our relationship with God as Christians, as followers of Jesus Christ, have this obligation, have this privilege to pray for those around us, to talk to God about the people we know. So just some questions for you to think about along these lines. If Job's friends were your friends, would you pray for their forgiveness? Honestly, I don't know. I would probably, it would be hard for me in the midst of my pain to pray for the friends who had been causing me even more pain. Would you? And what are the spiritual qualifications necessary to pray for others? Basically, I think the story of Job and the rest of the New Testament just means we have to be able to talk to God, have some sort of relationship with God where we're on a communicating basis to God. That's basically all we need to be able to talk to God about the people we know, about others, about our friends, about our relatives, about our neighbors. We can lift them up in prayer as long as we know who God is and are able to talk to God. So that's the beginning of this conversation. We're going to have several more videos going on in this lesson. But this idea of praying for others, this priestly prayer we can offer for others, is kind of one of our responsibilities as the priesthood of believers. There are always 3 ways to join. Check out the calendar. But in person Sunday nights at 5 p.m., live Monday nights at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And then you can check out these weekly wrap ups on YouTube and or WordPress. I'm all over Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, WordPress, YouTube. Those links are in the description below. I enjoyed starting this conversation with you. Hope you join us for some of the other videos in this lesson following up.